Good morning, folks, and welcome to the continuing story of my attempts, mostly unsuccessful to date, of rigging my Wingnut Wings SE5a. In the past, when I have rigged 1/32nd scale World War I aircraft, I've either used Easy Line or I used SBS generic flat bracing wire. And both of those fairly successfully. They have their pluses and minuses, but I wanted to up my game with this build and use turnbuckles. And I had purchased a bunch of packages of the lovely gas patch metal turnbuckles, different styles, anchor points and turnbuckles. And I had secured some very thin diameter brass tubing, and I'd watched a bunch of videos of folks who are quite adept at the process of snaking through rigging line, through the anchor points or the turnbuckles, and then securing it through the brass tubing with a little drop of CA glue. And boy, did that look nifty and very realistic. So I started the process and said, okay, well, I will try it with using anchor points at the top and turnbuckles, longer turnbuckles at the bottom. And by the way, you'll see now that none of those are there anymore. They've all been pulled. And Easy Line. Even knowing that one of the biggest drawbacks of Easy Line is that it can kink, it can twist, and it has some very, very strange reactions to CA glue that can cause after the fact kinking and twisting. There were some other issues that I discovered en route. But anyway, I made sure that I had all of the little holes. They're already pre-drilled on the Wingnut Wings kits for turnbuckles or for the attachment points of the rigging line. But they were all clear and ready to go, and I attached them and I put everything together, and then I threaded through the Easy Line on the top wing before I attached it. But lo and behold, after I had gotten the wing attached, even though I thought all of those lines were taped out of place so they wouldn't get in the way, there were some bad kinks and some really snarky looking line that was in there. I was not happy, and I said, okay, time to get rid of the Easy Line, just use the turnbuckles. But of course, the Easy Line was now cemented in with the CA glue, or glued in with the CA glue. And so I had to detach all of that, and I pulled all of those anchor points on the top, and I ordered this Miyoki beading thread, nylon beading thread. And it arrived, and it's the very 0.12 millimeter diameter. And I discovered as soon as I started snipping and cutting it using a variety of different very sharp tools, the damn end of the line would fray. No matter what I did, the line would fray at the end. Maybe not a big deal for a needle, I don't know, but they sure wouldn't go into the tiny little gas patch holes, regardless of whether they were the anchor points or the other types. So screw that. So then I went and looked at a couple modeling sites, said, well, what are people using for the non-flexible line? And this line, Stroft Monofilament line out of Germany, came highly recommended. And I saw some models that were done using this line. I said, that looks pretty good. So I ordered that. And it arrived, and I discovered after the fact that it only comes in one color, which is basically a very transparent, pale blue, almost invisible. Well, I said, that's not even going to show. It threaded through okay, no issue with that. But I said, so I pulled that out before gluing it and gave it some paint, the paint, black primer, and that really wouldn't stick. It was just flaking off. Maybe I should have sealed it with some varnish, but I didn't. And I said, this is going to be a disaster. Screw that. So I said, you're just going to have to be more careful, and went ahead and started using the easy line. And somewhere along the way, I discovered, if you don't have the angles of the turnbuckles just right, you're going to have some funky looking rigging, especially when you've got double lines, and there are double lines all over the place. By the way, you'll see that there is some bracing wire already in here. Yes, along the wing struts, the cabane struts, and down here. I used the SBS line. Very happy with it, of course. No turnbuckles, no anchor points, but I didn't really think that was going to show that much, and I'm happy with that. So once again, I was pulling out anchor points and line and doing it over and over and over again and deciding this just isn't working. And then I got a comment back from one of my YouTube friends and correspondents and a great modeler, Trey, at Trey's Models. And what he was using was, I think, a monofilament line, but he was attaching, drilling through the wings and then attaching a turnbuckle with canopy glue afterwards and painting it. Well, I didn't want to use monofilament line anymore, but I thought, well, what about if I try out one of these SBS lines and see how it looks if I use a little canopy glue and put on a turnbuckle at one end. And then I painted it black and sealed it with varnish. And I think it looks pretty good. So that's going to be the next step. Now, granted, I haven't put in any of those rigid lines, but I've done it before. It's fiddly, but I do know how to do it. And I won't have an issue, hope, with improper angles. So we'll get that all in there and go forward from there. And here's a piece of line that is not painted. So I'm toying with whether just to leave the wire unpainted in sort of, its steel color. Maybe I will, rather than go with black. These lines here are steel, and so I probably just won't paint, any need to paint the turnbuckle, which is in sort of, as you can see, sort of a steel gray color anyway. Okay, we're going to go for broke again. I've got to sand off and remove some built-up CA glue in a couple of places, and I'll get to going on that. And then I think what I will do is, of course, size each of the pieces of wire, which is a bit of a process, back and forth. Then I'm going to attach the turnbuckle at one end, let that all dry, make sure that it's just not quite flush with the end so that the original length of the bracing wire will be exactly as I cut it, and then start placing those wires. And who knows, maybe by Christmas, I'll get this darn plane rigged. Thanks for watching, and wish me luck. I need it. Well, I need good fortune and a steady hand, and I haven't given up yet.